course. Nothing great big and huge, but I use Tile Pro stuff.
Cool.
And it seems like it works pretty good. So anybody that wants to sing it loud or do whatever, they can do it. I've got plenty of subs in on there.
Well, that's awesome, man. I probably better let you go do that, but thanks for calling, man. That was awesome.
Well, like I said, anytime.
Sometime I'd like to do
anytime
this.
you want to chat, anytime you want to come over and like do an interview with me,
I'd love to do this live over there.
I can hook you up, if you don't mind, probably being, him tell you some story or something if you want to hear it, about whatever,
I'd love to
It'd
take
be great
this.
for uncensored shit, over the air.
Yeah, I'd love to do this live at one of your DJ things over one of those bars
like I said,
you do. That'd be awesome.
Anytime you want to, like I said, just pop on out, man, and we'll get you hooked squared away up through there, and you can do your thing or whatever.
All right, man. Hey, thanks, Matt, for calling.
Okay, I appreciate it, Ian.
Talk to you later, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. That's Matt's from Matt's Music, the advertiser I had last week. That was actually Matt from Matt's Music. So he's been doing pretty good going to local bars and doing a karaoke setup for DJing. But those some good stories, and it's great to hear from him. And I got another buddy I'm going to get a hold of, and he's from Southern Indiana. So he's got some different perspective on his grandpa. It'd be probably interesting to hear, so can't wait to hear that. Much just doing this podcast thing. I talked about 4 people already about grandpas, and we got off on other topics, but most of it's been about good grandpa stories. So.
Oh, yeah? Did you mention the name? Pappy's gone?
Yes. Yeah, Pappy's gone.
Pappy's gone. Mammy's still here, but Pappy's gone.
Yeah. So, hey, your Pappy, what's the story on your Pappy?
Well, the good story that me and you were kind of reminiscent on earlier was my Pappy. He was a carpenter. I guess you would say one of the oldest professions in the book.
Like Jesus?
Yeah. like our Lord Savior, Jesus Christ, yes. But before that, he used to run Texacos, old gas stations.
Uh-huh.
And you could go there and you wouldn't just fill your car up, but you could get, your oil changed or anything else that was going wrong. He would fix it. But then after he retired or whatnot, or after his businesses went out, whatever you call it, he started doing some carpentry work, and he only made 2 things ever. He only made swings and potato bins. Have you ever seen a potato bin?
I think I have. My grandpa used to make them.
He used to make them too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's like a grandpa thing, but he only made potato bins. I think a lot of people use them as trash cans now.
Yeah, probably.
which makes sense because I don't know who would use a potato bin these days.
Yeah, me either.
So anyways, he gets out of the Texaco business and he immediately starts, doing some woodworking, and he gets about 15 years into it. And so this one morning, because he likes to get to his shop, like 5:30 in the morning, and his shop was in his backyard, and it was just this greasy old shed. I mean, sawdust everywhere. If you would have, just lit a cigarette on the ground, I mean, the whole place would have went up in flames. I mean, he never took care of it, grease rags hanging everywhere. And so we get this call at about 6 in the morning, and, he says, Larry, that's my dad. He says, Larry, you gotta come. You gotta come here. You gotta help. And so we're freaking out, And so my dad, he races over there, and he calls me back, and he says, hey, I'm taking your grandpa to the hospital. He had an incident today. He cut off 3 of his fingers on his table saw.
Oh.
And he says we kind of screwed up, and I think that we can possibly reattach the fingers. So I said that's pretty shitty that he cut his fingers off, but I guess it's good that we can attach them. And I'm thinking, they're going down there and everything's, somewhat good. And he calls me and he says, no, you need to go and find those fingers. So I said, what?
Oh my gosh.
And he says, you got to go there and you got to find those fingers and you got to race into the hospital. This hospital's in Louisville. So I said, all right. I said, I'll see what I can do. And he says, you got to be Johnny on the spot. You know, I mean, you wait too long, they're not going to be able to attach them. And so I race over there, and I mean, it looks like a CSI murder scene. I mean, just blood, you know, like a blood trail, like from the driveway into his shed.
Oh,
and I'm like,
man.
oh God, here we go. And I get in there, and I'm just kicking this sawdust up, looking all over the place and whatnot. And I find these fingers, and I immediately, you know, go in the house, get some ice, throw them in there, and I'm racing, you know, down the interstate and whatnot. I figure a cop, you know, pulls me over. I could tell him, you know, my grandpa cut his fingers off. I'm going like 100, 110. And so anyways, I get to the hospital. I open up this cooler, and all of a sudden I realize there's only 2 fingers, and my grandpa cut 3 of them off.
Gosh. Oh.
So then they found out they couldn't attach any of them, and he only had 2 fingers the rest of his life. It was like his thumb and his pinky. So if you ever seen him just like try to work anything, he basically more or less like didn't even have a hand at that point. I mean, you can't do too much with a thumb and a pinky.
Oh,
so yeah, that was him, all right, but
that doesn't help a carpenter having not all your fingers. So, ooh.
Oh no, he was a crap carpenter before that,
yeah.
And then after that, it was just even worse. I mean, he literally lathered everything up with like 7 coats of varnish. Like, it looked awful. I mean, it didn't look good at all. I mean, he went through like 10th grade, not even 10th grade, at Orleans High School, where you were born at.
Well, I wasn't born there, but I lived there my first year of life in Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mitchell or wherever that's at. Yeah.
He went there, and the kind of ironic thing is, the reason he didn't finish school was because his father, my great-grandpa, he was a farmer, and he got his whole arm stuck in a combine, and it ripped it off.
Oh.
He only had his left arm, so I don't know. I'm just waiting for the day that my dad comes back and tells me that he's missing a fingernail or something, you know?
Yeah. Goodness.
Something's gonna happen. I can just feel it. I got an omen about it.
Yeah, what's that feller that you were telling me about that lived in a trailer or shed or something you knew? It was kind of like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. Who was that guy? Wasn't was grandpa a relative or somebody or what? It
was actually his relative.
Okay.
But we only found out about it. My grandpa wasn't much of a talker, but
yeah.
It was this guy named Donald, all googly-eyed. I mean, we honestly, he was bald. He wasn't bald, but he just had like nasty old patches of hair just on his head and like random spots. And, you know, he'd look a lot better if he just shaved off. But I mean, Donald, he lived with his mom until she died, and she died when she was like 100. But we always thought Donald was just stupid, and it turns out he was actually mentally handicapped.
Oh man!
You know, but Donald. The funny thing about Donald is he could not do anything. Like basic math. You know, bodily taking care of yourself. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah.
Basic hygiene.
Yeah.
And Donald, he was amazing. He was kind of like that Elmer guy.
Yeah.
What's that guy? They made all those stupid movies.
Oh,
like
yeah. Gosh, what was that? Dang.
Ernie?
Yeah, something like that. Ernest B? I can't remember. I can't remember what he advertised for. I was trying to think about that the other day. Gosh, he was on TV forever. Real ugly fella, skinny.
Yeah, that was Donald in a nutshell. And he could only work on cars, but he was amazing at cars. He was like that goofball mechanic who, like, he would work at my grandpa's shop sometimes, and they would bring it in and stuff. And, I mean, Donald, he only worked like 1 day a week because he wasn't reliable. He just wouldn't show up the other 6 days.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, where's Donald? Not here again, of course. So he only worked there like 1 day a week, but he was real good at what he did and whatnot. And so Donald, he used to come in and stuff, but they're lucky Donald didn't have to go find the fingers, because that would have been an even bigger fiasco.
Oh, I bet.
No, he probably would have just fed him to his cat or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably fed that third finger to his cat, to be honest.
Oh.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Right.
But that was Donald for us. And
cool.
then the only other good grandpa story I have from that one is, this is more historical than it is humorous, but
yeah.
he was he used to run those Texacos and whatnot, and there was a huge gas shortage.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was I don't know, like 1971, 1972, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I mean, I guess it was it'd kind of be like insider trading. Like,
yeah.
that'd be like the equivalent to it, you know. He'd gotten some information or something that, you know, gas prices were going to just be like skyrocketed up and whatnot. And, they weren't going to be able to get any gasoline. So, he hires this black guy that he knew. And, you know, at the time, and whatnot, like, you know, I guess, you know, with like racial tensions and all that
mm-hmm.
jazz and stuff and whatnot, like, you wouldn't think of him doing that, but yeah, he did. And I guess this guy and my grandpa, they would like drove all the way in to Tennessee, like the bottom of Tennessee. And they had like some old oil tanker truck or something. And I guess they filled up and whatnot, and then came back to Indiana. And they got away with it for like a good month and a half and whatnot. But yeah, that's the only other cool story. And then before that, actually, he had that Texaco,
mm-hmm.
and then he was a carpenter. But before the Texacos, I told you he used to be kind of like a Schwann's man.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, him and Donald used to do it, and so he gets his old bus, and he just guts it out completely, guts the seats out, you know, guts the windows out, which I don't know why he did that. I think he just got carried away with it. And he used to deliver, you know, goods to schools and businesses and whatnot. And so him and Donald are driving down the interstate, and I guess he let Donald drive this one time, and Donald just flips the bus. I mean, he probably saw something, probably didn't even see anything, to be honest, and just, you know, took a hard right and just flipped this bus. And so him and Donald had to crawl out of it. And then after that, they had to scratch the business, because that was the business, the bus.
Oh my gosh.
Man. So you thanks, Donald.
Oh man. That's
way
awesome,
to go,
man.
Donald.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's Donald and my grandpa. So there's not a whole lot of good stories without Donald. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you told me your grandpa had a bar for a while, right?
Yeah, he had a bar, fruit market, vegetable stand, and he did some bootlegging on the side on Sunday. And I talked about that in the beginning. I was like, oh man. And the thing is, my sister called, and she remembers more than I did. And she told me, I totally forgot that, you know, about the stuff that Grandma and Grandpa would have us do. They'd have us run to the bar and get them cigarettes, because they owned the bar. So if they didn't feel like going over there, they ran me and my sister over there. And my sister and I, heck, we were 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, walking in a bar in Elwood, Indiana, Elwood's known for the KKK, and that bar was known for that. So it was scary to go into, man. And they'd have us go get cigarettes or go get something we were out of at the house, like milk or buttermilk or whatever. My grandma and grandpa drank buttermilk like it was water, but they'd have us go over there and get stuff. And there was a black man's bust, like a fake head, nailed to the side of that bar. It wasn't my grandpa did that. That's owner before. And they had devil horns.
It was just my grandpa. It was my grandma, not my grandpa.
No. Devil horns on this black guy's head on the side of that wall. And when I saw that when I was a little kid, they'd have us go over there and drink Cokes on the bar stool and act like we were drinking real